It started the way most betrayals do, quietly, with small cracks in the surface that I refused to see until the entire foundation of my life crumbled beneath me. He was someone I trusted more than anyone else, someone I believed in when everyone else warned me not to. I thought loyalty meant something, that our bond, sealed by years of friendship and late-night conversations about dreams, was unbreakable. But loyalty means nothing to a man who has already decided that cheating is the only game he knows how to play. At first, it was little things, subtle lies told with the confidence of a professional liar. A deal that somehow didn't go through, money that vanished into excuses, promises made but never kept. I told myself he was under pressure, that circumstances were difficult, that I just needed to stand by him. That's the curse of trust. It blinds you. I ignored the whispers, the doubts that gnawed at the edges of my mind, until the day I discovered the truth laid out in numbers, signatures, and a betrayal so deliberate it took my breath away. He had taken everything. My money, my ideas, the future I had worked for. He didn't just cheat me out of business. He cheated me out of years of my life. When I confronted him, he didn't flinch. He didn't even try to deny it. He looked me in the eye, smirked, and told me that I was too naive, too soft to survive in the world we were in. He said that I should be grateful, that I had learned an important lesson. In that moment, my anger was a fire that could have consumed me whole. But I didn't explode, I didn't shout, I didn't strike him. Instead, I smiled, and I let him believe he had already won. Because I knew something he didn't. The greatest revenge is not in reacting, it's in waiting. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. I played my role perfectly, the broken partner, the man who had been outsmarted. He thought I had disappeared into shame, that I was licking my wounds in silence. But while he flaunted his stolen success, I was working in the shadows, piecing together every thread of his deceit. I followed the paper trail he thought I was too blind to see. I gathered evidence, allies, and the truth he had buried so deep he believed it would never resurface. And then I struck. Not with violence, not with rage, but with precision. I exposed him to the very people he had manipulated, the investors he had conned, the friends he had lied to. One by one, the walls he had built on my stolen foundation began to collapse. Contracts were canceled, accounts were frozen, partners abandoned him. Everything he had taken from me crumbled in his hands like dust. And the best part? He never saw it coming. The day I watched him fall was the day I felt alive again. I didn't recover everything. Some things lost to betrayal can never truly be restored. But I took back my power, my dignity, my name. And he was left with nothing but the ruins of his own arrogance. The classic cheat cost me everything, but it also taught me the sweetest truth. Revenge, when served with patience and precision, is not just justice, it is freedom. The first time I met him, I thought I had found a brother. He had that kind of charm that could disarm even the coldest hearts, smooth words, a confident laugh, and the kind of eyes that made you believe every promise that came out of his mouth. We started from nothing, building ideas late at night over cheap coffee, sketching out futures on napkins, convincing ourselves that the world had no choice but to notice us one day. I let him into my life, into my trust, into the very core of what I thought was unshakable. If only I had known then what kind of man he truly was, I might have saved myself from the ruin that followed. It didn't happen overnight. Betrayal never does. It's slow, patient, like poison dripping into water. At first, he handled the finances, saying he was better at numbers. I let him. He closed deals, saying he had the gift of persuasion. I let him. And when the first checks arrived, smaller than expected, I accepted his excuses. Clients dropped us for no reason, opportunities slipped away, yet he always had a story ready, always a convenient explanation. I didn't question him, because who questions their own brother? Who suspects their own partner of sharpening knives in the dark? But the truth has a way of finding cracks, of seeping through no matter how hard someone tries to bury it. I discovered it on a night I'll never forget. I stayed late at the office, tired, half dreaming, when I opened the wrong folder on his desk.
It wasn't wrong, though.
It was the right one, the one he never wanted me to see. There it was, my signature forged, my accounts drained, my name used in contracts that I had never agreed to. Every deal, every promise, every word he had spoken had been built on lies. He hadn't been building with me. He had been stealing from me, brick by brick, until the house I thought was ours was standing on nothing but sand. When I confronted him, he didn't even look ashamed. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, and smirked as though I had just solved a riddle far too late. "You really didn't see it coming, did you?" he said. "You were so busy dreaming that you forgot the world is built by people like me, the ones willing to cheat." That word, cheat, cut deeper than a blade. It wasn't just betrayal. It was pride. He was proud of what he had done, proud that he had outsmarted me. I wanted to break him right then. Every nerve in me screamed for it. But I swallowed my rage. I let him think I was defeated. I let him believe that his betrayal had broken me so completely that I was no threat at all. That was his mistake. For months, I disappeared. I let him parade around with my stolen success, let him stand on stages and shake hands with people who thought he was a genius. While he basked in the spotlight, I dug into the shadows. I traced every false contract, every offshore account, every shell company he had built to hide what was mine. I spoke to the people he had tricked, listened to their anger, their stories of being used. I built a network of truth, piece by piece, while he thought I was nothing more than a forgotten name in his past. And then, when the time was right, I pulled the floor out from under him. Evidence delivered to the right hands, investors walking away in waves, lawsuits landing on his desk like strikes from a hammer. The empire he had built collapsed in silence at first, then in chaos. I didn't need to touch him, not physically. The weight of his own deceit was enough to crush him. I watched him lose it all. The cars, the house, the reputation he had polished so carefully. All gone. The last time I saw him, he looked nothing like the man I had once admired. His confidence was gone, his charm burned out. He tried to speak, to find some scrap of his old self, but all I saw was a hollow man choking on the ashes of his own lies. The classic cheat cost me everything, my money, my trust, my years. But in the end, I gained something far greater. I gained clarity. I gained strength. I learned that revenge isn't about rage. It's about patience. And when patience meets justice, the result is absolute. I walked away not just free of him, but free of the man I had been before. Too trusting, too blind. He cheated me, yes. But I rewrote the ending. And that ending belonged to me. He was the kind of man who could make lies sound like poetry. When he spoke, people leaned in, nodding, believing, trusting without hesitation. I was no different. I let him into my world, my work, my trust, until there was no line between what was mine and what was his. We built everything together. At least that's what I thought. Long nights spent chasing ideas, building plans, dreaming of futures where our names would mean something. I believed in him so completely that I didn't see what was happening until it was too late. The first real blow came disguised as success. He told me a major client had signed with us. We celebrated, laughed, and drank like brothers. But when the money came in, it was smaller than he had promised. He had an explanation ready, one that seemed reasonable, and I accepted it. That was my mistake. Every lie he told after that was easier because I had already chosen to believe him once. And lies, when repeated often enough, become a prison of your own making. I remember the exact night I discovered the truth. The office was silent, the kind of silence that makes every sound echo. He had left in a hurry, forgetting to lock one of his drawers. I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't suspicious. But when I saw my own name signed on documents I had never read, my hands froze. Page after page of forged agreements, stolen funds, fake promises, all carrying my signature. He hadn't just cheated me. He had erased me, replaced me with a version of myself that existed only on paper, a puppet whose strings he pulled while smiling in my face. When I confronted him, I expected anger, excuses, maybe even guilt. Instead, he laughed. A low, mocking laugh that burned through me. "You really thought we were partners?" he said, leaning back like a king on his throne. You were the dreamer. I was the doer. You gave me the ideas, and I took them to where they belonged, with me. That's the difference between us. You believe in loyalty. I believe in winning. His words hollowed me out. He wasn't even ashamed. He wore his betrayal like a crown. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't about business or money. It was about ego. He needed to win, and he needed me to lose. So I let him win. At least, that's what he thought. I vanished from his world, leaving him to flaunt his stolen glory. But while he stood in the spotlight, I slipped into the shadows. Quietly, I began to gather everything: emails, bank records, testimonies from the people he had cheated. The trail of lies he left behind was endless, and I followed it patiently. I rebuilt myself in silence, piece by piece, until I was no longer the broken man he thought I was. Months passed. He grew louder, bolder, convinced he was untouchable. That was when I struck. Not with fists, not with fury, but with precision. The investors he had tricked learned the truth. The clients he had deceived saw the proof. Lawsuits rained down on him like fire, and the empire he had built on my back cracked beneath his feet. I watched from a distance as his arrogance dissolved into panic, his charm into desperation. One by one, doors slammed shut in his face. His wealth disappeared,